Till Dawn continue on Channel 5 with Island of Lost Souls.
Welcome to Movies Till Dawn, a new podcast that's a safe space for filmmakers to talk about the fascinating and exasperating and always unusual and never quite the same thing twice process of creating motion pictures. I'm Raymond D. Felita, and I'm still here. Of all the filmmakers I've spoken to, none has had such an impact and such a profound significance on my own life as Andy Garcia. We made a movie called City Island. It came out in 2010. It started its life long before that. My agent said, our company represents Andy Garcia. What if we sent it to him? I said, well, yeah, he's brilliant. He's great. He's Andy. Can he play an Italian American? This is one of the dumbest things I've ever said in showbiz. I mean, it's like, what am I fucking thinking? The guy is Godfather Part 3. He's the honorary. He's more Italian American than anyone who, the question is, does he want to do it? Because if he does, he's going to do it because he knows he's going to bring something good to it. So we sent it to him, and I was stunned to hear fairly quickly, yeah, Andy likes this, and can he call you? And he called me up, and I remember it was like Thanksgiving weekend or something, and I got this phone call from a blocked number, and I heard this voice say, Raymond, this is Andy Garcia. It was a very dark kind of noir Andy voice. It was down here. It's like Andy when he's playing a cop, sort of, or I don't know whether he did this just to kind of mess with me or something. So we met, and we had a great meeting. What I realized when I was talking with him, though, was that I wasn't really necessarily just talking to an actor. I was talking to a filmmaker. He had smart ideas about the movie. He had smart ideas about who could be in it. And we just had a simpatico. We both loved jazz. We loved Latin music. We loved a lot of the same cultural items. We talked about directors that he had worked with, who I admired. We got each other. And without really any planning, I just said at the end of the meeting, what if we did this movie together as partners? By which I really meant, which he knew, like, let's produce it together. Let's make this happen together. And he got it. And it was great because it still took us a couple of years to put together, but he shared his phone book with me, and we got actors involved. And again, it's never easy. It still took us time to do. But we made that movie, and we're both really proud of it. So here's part one of my conversation with Andy, and we talk about, among other things, the legendary Cuban composer and music innovator Cachao, who was a very important part of Andy's life. We also talk about the great director Hal Ashby, who was also an important part of Andy's early career. And finally, you're going to hear about a very weird baseball coach that Andy had at one time in his young life.
But you were mentioning about Cachao. I used to see him in Miami playing at these little clubs.
This is like when you were a teenager growing up there?
Yeah. And when I started collecting music, I was a collector of both Motown and Cuban music. I used to go into Overtown, where Deep City Records was, and there was one particular record store there, barred up with, wrought iron bars and stuff like that. And it was was that Overtown was the area where, when in the old days when, Duke or Sammy Davis or Ella Fitzgerald used to come play in Miami Beach in the hotels or whatever, they weren't allowed to stay in the hotel, so they'd stay in Overtown. So I used to go to that record store, and, the guys there, the first time I walked in there, they said, like, what the hell are you doing here, But I used to go buy R&B records there that I couldn't find anywhere else that would play on the R&B stations, and then I used to also begin to collect Cuban music. And I ran into, on A Street in a record store, an album that said Jam Sessions in Miniature, Descargas en Miniatura, Cachao y su conjunto, Cachao and his combo, kind of thing. I asked the guy, what is this? Because it seemed very, compelling. And this is before I had even met Cachao. Just seen him play live. And he said, those are the 5 greatest musicians, rhythm, that's the greatest rhythm session that Cuba has ever produced right there, those 5 guys. So I bought this thing, and that record transformed my life, and that's the Bible. And I realized later on that was the Bible for anybody who wanted to learn how to play, Cuban percussive instruments and how they related to one another and what their functions were in the music. And then I started saying, well, Cachao lives there in Miami. I started to track him down. He was playing with a band called Hansel and Raul. He was on bass there and doing a lot of their arrangements. And then he'd do a jam sessions at the Crossway Airport Inn with other great musicians that were there. And so I started watching him. I never went and talked to him. I never introduced myself. I would just watch him play and all the other musicians. And then I saw him in a concert in San Francisco doing his danzones. And at that time, we had just got back from shooting The Godfather. And Tom Luddy, which you know from Telluride, who had worked with Francis, knew we were both big Cachao fans. And he said, hey, Cachao's playing up here. Come check him out. So we went up there, and I finally met him, was introduced. And then I got the idea of doing a concert to honor him in Miami. And I shot it on 16 millimeter. And that was the first of like 5 documentaries I've done of him.
Chanchullo.
He's been copied so much, as the father of the mambo with his brother in the late 30s, Orestes Lopez, in 1938. They wrote the original mambo in a danzón orchestra, strings. And his music, he revolutionized Cuban music several times over. So all his music has been inspired and copied by everybody, including the famous song Oye Como Va, that Santana made famous. Tito Puente is listed as the author, but it's the hook is from a Cachao tune called Chanchullo. And Cachao's, recorded Chanchullo and recorded Oye Como Va with Tito Puente in his band. Right. He was on bass kind of thing. So
it by default it became Tito Puente's song.
Yeah, Tito was a great admirer of Cachao. They were friends, Why they didn't at least split it, that's between. I asked Cachao once, and I said this in a documentary. I said, Cachao, that song is lifted from Chanchullo, and everybody knows that, and I mean, how do you feel about that? And he kind of, in his way, which he was a very humble guy and very sort of like, let go, let God kind of thing, he said in Spanish, tú sabes cómo son los muchachos, which means, you know how kids are.
Did you think you were going to be a musician? Was that an early ambition of yours?
Yeah, I was an early ambition, early love of mine. Yeah, even before I had sort of even thought about acting as a profession, music was my life always. I started studying percussion, collecting music. I used to DJ, parties and stuff like that, and mix records. You got, in the old days when I was a teenager,
Right.
Yeah.
Weren't you sort of studying business though in college? Weren't you?
I worked in my father's business, so I didn't know what I was going to study. I just, was like, I'll sign up as a BA, associate degree, and I guess I'll study finance. I was already flirting with acting, but it didn't really. It took me about a semester or two, and I took some acting electives in college. The first one really being in high school, where the teacher really encouraged me, and I had a lot of fun in the class. And then I kept kind of fiddling with it. And then by the second semester, I realized that I was failing all my business classes. And I had no attention for it,
But then there's this whole bizarre like story of were you being scouted as a baseball player? And somehow you're on a team with Mickey Rourke.
No.
None of that really makes sense.
No.
What is that?
It does in the sense that I was, I was a jock as a kid. My main focus growing up was sports.
Right.
I played basketball and baseball. I was very small and skinny, but I was devoted to the sports. And Mickey Rourke was my little league coach in Miami Beach.
Now that's even stranger.
Yeah.
It only gets stranger.
And we won the city championship with him as a coach. I won the batting championship. My buddy Howie Shapiro, who was the shortstop, won the most valuable player. And Mickey would coach in hip hugger bell bottoms with the t-shirt like Mick Jagger T-shirt that wouldn't cover his belly button, really tight. You could see the crack of his ass, and sandals, those little kind of Indian, Jesus sandals, and a big shag haircut, and he was the coach. Mickey was a very good baseball player, but he had gotten kicked off the Miami Beach High School baseball team.
Really?
And he was a very good. He loved baseball, and he was our coach, and we won the city championship. And he didn't show up to get the award, but we all did, with our parents or whatever.
He came to our City Island premiere.
Yeah, that's right.
And it was right before The Wrestler, I believe.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was right after The Wrestler.
Yeah, I think that maybe he was there for the festival too.
Yeah.
And he sat with me. Yeah. No, he's great. We're still good friends. We just don't see each other much, but we know an old good friend is always an old good friend. Great actor.
Oh, he's amazing.
Great actor.
Yeah, and just to me, it's just put Barfly and The Wrestler together on the shelf, and you don't need anything else. It's
incredible,
perfect
incredible
body of work in two movies.
Yeah, when I first met him, when I came out here in '78 to LA looking for work, I went to see Heaven's Gate, and I watched the movie, and I stayed for the credits. And I was in this long cast list. All of a sudden, I see Mickey Rourke, and I went, Mickey Rourke? He said, I wonder if that's my Mickey Rourke. I didn't recognize him in the movie. He had a small part, And I said, Mickey, as an actor? And I took, it's like you take like a beat and you go, yeah, of course. He's a fascinating guy. And like I said, just a wonderful actor.
Where is Sarah?
You don't make the rules here today, baby.
Jeff Bridges, star of Jagged Edge and Starman.
You're gonna blow the deal, man.
Roseanne Arquette, star of Desperately Seeking Susan and Silverado.
You got Sonny killed.
They're in trouble. Anything can happen when there's 8 million ways to die.
What I'm remembering is the first time I saw you in a movie was 8 Million Ways to Die.
Yeah.
That's 1985 or 6.
Yeah.
I saw it at the one of those theaters on East 86th Street in New York.
Oh, really? Yeah.
I didn't yet know who you were.
Yeah.
And I'm watching you and Jeff Bridges just do like word jazz, like these insane scenes. And I was hysterical. I was like, what are these guys doing? Like, who wrote this script?
I don't think we should bullshit each other, all right, Angel?
No, I don't think so.
I know you did, Sonny, okay? Personally, I don't give a fuck.
Wait a second, baby.
There's the next couple.
Wait a second, baby. Hey, wait a second. You're accusing me of doing something to Sonny? Is that what you're here to do?
Accuse you.
You don't have to accuse me.
No, I know you did it. You know you did it. Let's not bullshit each other, okay?
Ya me está acusando el tipo este aquí.
Déjalo que diga lo que quiere. Well, we're talking code now? What is this?
Okay. Talk. But talk about something that interests me, okay?
All right, let's talk about making some money.
I look like I need to make money, baby?
Okay. Relax, baby. Hey, man, compared to me, you're doing fantastic.
Compared to you, it ain't saying much, man.
But
What?
I bet if you got $5, you won 10. Am I right? So I got 250,000. No one equal weight in the white stuff.
The what?
The white stuff.
The white stuff?
The white stuff.
Isn't that a movie about astronauts?
There were scripts that were written and tossed out, and then but about halfway through the movie, it was all bets were off.
Yeah.
And, because they pulled the plug and we had to improvise scenes that weren't yet written, and it was a whole process. But
was that Canon Films?
It was a PSO, Producer Sales Organization.
Mark Damon. That
owned the foreign rights, and Columbia owned the domestic rights. It was like a split rights deal.
So tell me about Hal Ashby, your first meeting with him, what you thought of him. It's one of my favorite filmmakers.
Me too.
Yeah, you and I have talked about him.
He's Cayman and Francis are my heroes, and I got a chance to work with both of them, Wow, I mean, Hal's movies had blown me away for years. The resonance of his movies, the human behavior in his movies, and as I turned out, because there's a lot of freedom to explore, was really something that was very evident. It was, I told the story, but it's a curious thing, But I had done a movie with Kurt Russell and Mariel Hemingway called A Mean Season, and my agent Jerry Scott at the time said, "There's this movie with Jeff." Called A Million Ways to Die, and there's the antagonist in the movie. This is young Colombian coke dealer, and I'm talking to Lynn Stallmaster about you, and I said, "Oh my God, Hal Ashby," I said, and Jeff, imagine, I was a kid, I was, off the street kind of thing, and apparently Lynn when she suggested my names, he goes, "No, I saw Andy in that movie. I know Andy." He says, "Oh, he's a wonderful young actor, but we're looking more like for a Hector Macho Camacho type. He was a boxer at the time, and that was he was like strong. He had like a mohawk and tattooed, very urban, And Andy's too sophisticated. He's the wrong type for the thing. And so I told Jerry, I said, "Jerry, please," because I got the script. I said, "You got to get me in here. I know who this guy is. I grew up. I know who they are. I grew up amongst them. I've waited on them. I know who this guy is." So it took a little while for her to convince Lynn to see me.
Right.
And so when I went to see Lynn at his office there off of Olympic Boulevard Pico, and I knew that if I just went in as Andy and then read, kind of did it. It was maybe it was like a courtesy meeting or something for Jerry. So I just went in character. I just said I'm coming in as Angel. I got dressed up. I just went in, and at the time I used to smoke, and I sat in the lobby there. Already went in and ready to blow, kind of thing. And Lynn took me into his office and he said, and I started we were about to read, and I started to light a cigarette. And he said, I'm sorry, there's no smoking in here. And I said to Lynn, he says, Angel doesn't give a fuck what you think. And so I took my shot right away. And kind of Lynn, being the extraordinary talented man that he was, he kind of knew, okay, here we go. Here's another
This
actor.
is what this guy's gonna do, yeah.
This is what this guy's gonna do, and we're gonna have to, I'm gonna give him the space to do it, because maybe he's the guy. I don't, God bless Lynn, he cast me in that and The Untouchables. So imagine, he's so important in my life.
Sure.
And
well, he was the god of casting.
God of casting. So
years,
I said,
yeah.
This is my shot. I'm not gonna come in here and I got to show him who this guy is. So then he said, "Okay, you want to go to another room where I'll let you smoke?" And for some reason, I came. This is what I said to him, and I've never forgotten, because who knows how it came to me. But I said, "Wherever we're going, I've already been, and wherever you've been, I don't need to go." And he went, "Okay, that's all right. Well, let's go over here." He's like, "What do I got? It's too early in the morning for this, this guy." So I read for him, and then he responded, and then he said, "You mind reading for the producer? He's in the other room." And I said, "Sure." And then I read for Steve Roth, right there, and then they said, "Hal is about to get here. Do you mind hanging around? We'd like you to read for Hal." And I said, "Okay." Hal came in, and he was very sweet, as he always now is, a real gentleman. Loves actors, loves artists, And so we read, and there was a woman in the room who was the associate producer. I forget her name now. And in the scene, there was a scene between me and Jeff that Lynn was reading Jeff, but he was also reading the one line from the woman. So I said, "Do you mind reading this one line?" So how, she said, "Oh, no, that's fine. I'll read it." And so we start this haggling scene. We're kind of arguing, me and Jeff's character, me and Lynn. And then the lady, it was her turn to speak the line. And she said, the line was something like, "Angel, please, get a hold of yourself. You're being unreasonable," something like that, right? And when she said that, I turned to her and I just went off book. And I just belittled this woman. I told her to shut up. Who the hell you think you're talking to? I got up. I got in her face. I thought the woman was going to have a heart attack. So the color in her face was starting to go. And I said, I would just say to her, "Shut up. I don't want to hear one word." I just went on and on and on like that. And I just lost my mind. Then I turned back to Lynn and we continued the scene. And we finished. And I remember Hal looked over and he went like, "Oh, that was pretty good. That was pretty good." And
well, I think you were his kind of actor, because he loved that.
Yeah, I mean, I listened to Ray. I was going to take a shot here. I was not. He's like, I know this guy is, not only is a coke dealer and coke fiend, but he's a killer. He kills women in the movie. This guy has he's not a sophisticated character. He's got a hot, short fuse. So I took my shot, and they liked it. They offered me the part. No, first they said, "Thank you very much for coming in." Then I broke character completely. And I said, Mr. Ashby, it's a great pleasure to be here for you. You know, you've been a great inspiration to me. And if this part doesn't work out, I'd like to take a shot at it was written as a Bahamian pimp. and I said, I know I'm not Bahamian, but I had spent a lot of time there, and I could play him as someone who has grown up there. And he went, okay, when would you like to come back? And I said, well, I'd like it one day to turn around and prepare the part. He said, okay. So I went home, and my agent, it's a long story, but it's funny. I think it's funny. Yeah. He says, Jerry called me, he goes, what the hell happened? He goes, no, nothing. I think it went really well. He goes, yeah, it went really well. They offered you the part of Angel, but Hal will see you on Thursday for the other part.
Well, at that point, did you want to even do it and take the risk of losing Angel?
I did. I went back in and I read the other part.
Well, see,
I remember Jeff was saying Jeff was hearing these stories. He goes, "Who's this crazy kid?
Right?
Who's coming in to play this part?" You know?
But what you did was, like, to me, this is a great gift that an actor can give to a filmmaker during an audition, where they walk in and whatever they do, they simply basically explain to you what the guy is, and you don't have to do anything. Now, I got this.
Yeah.
You know, like when an actor comes in with total authority and goes, here's what it is. My thought is, you just took all this work away from me to do this. Perfect. You're going to do it.
Well, Hal always would talk about that. He said that he, you know, whole thing about for him is casting. You know, once he casts his movies, he said and these are quotes from him. I'm not making it up. He said 99% of the time, I believe if you give an actor a piece of direction, you're doing him a disservice. Because if you cast the right guy and he knows what he's doing, you have to give him the opportunity to even figure out. He said this because if he's going in a certain direction, he's got to get across the river and the bridge is out. If you deprive him of the process of figuring out how to get across the river, then you're depriving him of his creative process, and you're depriving yourself as a documentarian of watching him figure it out and capturing those moments of searching and all that, which is what he was interested in.
Sure.
So he never, the one thing I could say about him, other than, I mean, because there's so many things, but he never passed judgment on the work that was being done, no matter how abstract it was, whether it was an improvisation that was really not going anywhere or whatever. He would just come in and say, well, that was interesting. We got that. Try something else.
Yeah,
he would never say that's not working. What are you doing?
No, because then you're shortcutting like
because then you go, well, he doesn't like what I'm doing. You start editing yourself. You try to please something that shouldn't be pleased. You're just exploring.
Well,
if
he
was
really
a
master editor too, so
Yeah.
he knew what he could, he could pluck something that was there, and also things look different later. I find a lot of the time things that might not have felt like they were working. You look at it later and you go, Jesus, that was great. Like, why did we do that?
Exactly. That you find that a lot. That something that's irrational on the day is just the subconscious of the movie coming out in the actors. And it's this collective subconscious. And he encouraged, when he saw something he really liked, he'd go, okay, do more of that or whatever, But he would never go, no, that's not right. Never, ever. No matter how, he would just go, wow, that was interesting,
Right.
And I think that was one of the greatest gifts he gave me, as an actor. And hopefully I can impart that as a director too, is that don't never give a direction to actors or get involved where you're stifling their instinctual moves,
Mm-hmm.
And that's important because then they start going, now I'm trying to please you as opposed to explore the material.
Right.
There's a scene in there that's at the warehouse where there's this big shootout. And I remember that there was no dialogue in that scene at all written. We went to the warehouse on Saturday. This is like a Hal Ashby process. We all got together on Saturday. We went to the warehouse, this open, cavernous thing. It was like 100 yards long. And Hal said the head of the SWAT team, LA SWAT team, was there, who was a consultant in the movie. And you'll see him in the background working with Jeff, in the movie. And he said, okay, you're going to have Roseanne Arquette taped to a shotgun is going to be taped to her neck. And then we're going to tape Fred Asparagus, my buddy's a heavy-set Mexican guy, which I brought in as one of my guys. We're going to tape the trigger to his finger. So if he gets shot, his weight will blow her head off. You're going to come in from this side of the thing. And Hal says to me, and Jeff is like 70 yards away with all my coke laid out with like Molotov cocktails and rig to blow it all up. And he's trying to get the girl back, and I'm trying to get my Coke back. And Hal said, what would you do if you come in here with your guys? And I said, well, I send one guy over there and this guy over here. And I said, I want to make sure what's behind those rafters up there. He goes, well, could you do me a favor and not look at those rafters? Because I want to rappel 2 SWAT guys from there. And I said, yeah, I'm coked out of my mind. I probably would not. I'm not. I can give you that, That's the stage. And you're going to walk up to Jeff to here, and then you guys going to haggle. And, and I'm going, okay. And I'm going like, well, but there's no scene written, So we get there Monday morning, and very early in the morning, we get dressed. And I wait for Hal outside the trailer to walk towards the warehouse. And I said to him, Hal, this is what I was thinking that I could say so I was thinking about what to say to Jeff. And before I could even say it, he said, don't worry about it. Just haggle with him.
You're gonna cut her loose right now and send her out of here with Chance in his car. Those are the rules, Angel.
What, am I supposed to swallow that bullshit? Who do you think you're talking to, Chance?
Fuck you, motherfucker.
Hey, look who's here. The man that looks but doesn't see, huh? You brought your boyfriend along, huh?
Fuck you.
Huh? Playing hero.
I want you, motherfucker. Leave it alone, Chance. Get back.
You're playing hero to your lady. You're a little late for that, don't you think, baby?
I had to walk it looks like, like 40 yards, 50 yards. I had to fill that. Me and Jeff had to fill that with dialogue before we got into the last bit of confrontation where I cut her loose. He said, let's just try one. But he said, here's the thing. You haggle with him, try to win the negotiation. But at the end of the day, you have to cut her loose. Because if not, the movie stops. And
so that's your whole map that you've got.
That's it. And I just said, yeah, that's what I was thinking that I would say. He goes, no, don't worry, let's just try one.
And you just started shooting.
He didn't want to tell me what to say or say, I like it, I don't like it. He's just trusted. He said, go, just fly with it. And then you saw that, and he had multiple cameras going, and you saw that scene was just very combustible, and it's
totally
been kind of emulated in many different
Sure.
ways. I know Tarantino has always spoken about it, and it was wild. It was a wild scene. I lost my voice, and I had to do my off camera to Jeff when he got into his close coverage, mostly sign language because I had no voice. It was crazy. It was crazy.
Hey! Don't touch
Yes,
my
the
fucking
first
coat.
key goodbye, Daddy-O.
What the fuck? Hey! Hey! What the fuck are you doing? Don't fucking do it, man. Don't
I
fucking
got another
try it.
goddamn thing to lose.
Don't fucking try. Put the fucking fire out.
Kiss me goodbye, man.
Don't fucking do it, man. Put the fire out. What the fuck are you doing, man? Hey, Mundo, put the fire out. Mundo, hey, get the fuck over. What the fuck are you doing? Hey, leave that shit.
The way Hal set up the situation for that to be able to happen. That's the beauty. I think that's the magic of Hal. And I would ask him about being there because I thought that movie was I thought that was, I said, well, that's more like Shakespeare. I mean, that was so precise, that movie. He went, oh, no. He says, once Peter got the character, he would come up and say things, that were not scripted and things just like observations or comments. And whatever he would say, all the other actors would just justify it as the profound truth.
So a lot of that was Sellers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't read the novel, so I don't know how much, but you can tell that there was a lot of that, and people would just, if he would say something crazy, they would just go, wow, Chauncey,
Right.
that was really, that's beautiful, whatever,
It's interesting because I've read about Sellers too. I mean, it sounds like Ashby was the perfect director for him.
Oh my God.
Because he was very, very defensive and very sensitive, and giving him direction was akin to shutting him down.
Yes.
And so Sellers couldn't, and he had a lot of trouble with a lot of different directors, but it was always the same problem, which was you kind of had to let him just be Peter Sellers and explode with all of his ideas. Otherwise, he'd get thrown. And so Ashby was probably
He told me because I talked to him a lot about being there, which I think is one of the great masterpieces of films, up there with The Godfather 1 and 2. I think for me, those are the top three, as far as for me. And he said that 2 weeks into the thing, Peter wanted to start shooting again and reshoot all the scenes because he had finally gotten the character in his own mind. And Hal said, no, Peter, you have.
Yeah, how do you talk him out of that?
Yeah, you got to talk about that.
Could you please tell me where I can find a garden to work in?
A garden? What you growing, man?
There is much to be done during the winter. I should start the seeds for the spring and work the soil.
Bullshit. Who sent you here, boy? Did that chicken shit asshole Raphael send you, boy?
No. Mr. Thomas Franklin told me I must leave the old man's house. He's dead, you know.
Dead my ass. You tell that asshole if he got something to tell me to get his ass down here so. You got that, boy? Check it out.
If I see Raphael, I will give him your message.
Do that.
Good day.
Yeah, you want to have a good day?
But apparently at the end, I heard also he got really upset with Hal because at the end of being there in the credits, he puts a B-roll of him cracking up.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah,
and even Hal would come into the shot, and when he's on the gurney saying, "You tell Raphael that this motherfucker," whatever it was, and he'd crack up, and Peter felt that cost him the Oscar.
It may have. I mean, it's curious that he would have put it in without asking sellers.
Yeah. Well, the way there's two stories that he told me. One is that at the ending of the movie, where Peter walks on the water, the character Chauncey, he told me that he was in the cutting room. That was not the original ending of the film. Original ending is, I remember him telling you, they were at the funeral of the old man, Melvin Douglas, and Chauncey walks away, and he starts going through the woods, and he's kind of playing with one of the small little pine trees. And then Shirley MacLaine, I think she would come to him and say, "Chauncey, where'd you go? I've been looking all over for you." And he would say, "I've been looking for you too, Eve." Right? And it would end. But he told me that Bobby Jones, the editor and writer, called him and said, "How's the movie going?" And he said, "Oh, fantastic. Peter would do whatever Peter would do. All the actors would just justify anything he would do as the profound truth, He could have walked on water and they would have bought it." And he just said it like that. And then he said, as he said it, he said, "Wait a second, that's exactly what I'm gonna do." And then he called Robert Downey Sr., who had done the movie Putney Swope.
Putney Swope, yeah.
And there's an image of, character walks on water. And he said, "I want to steal that image from your movie, my movie." And apparently Robert Sr. said, "That's not mine, Hal, that's from the Bible." So they went back to that location, and Michael Haller, who was the production designer, also on 8 Million Ways to Die, put snow on the ground. They built a little ramp, and they did that shot. I mean, the way I interpret that was that, when you finish that movie and he walks on water, you're going like, it was such an extraordinary ending. You know?
It was controversial at the time.
Oh, it was incredible.
I remember thinking it was brilliant, and then I remember reading in reviews like it's a cop out. It doesn't mean anything, but like it startled people.
Yeah, well, the last phrase he says is "life is an illusion" or something like that. And so what I interpreted was when he did the outtakes, because you're such in a state of mind at the end of the movie, and then Hal goes boom, he snaps you right out of it.
Right.
And he shows you an outtake, throwing a curveball into his own movie.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I never asked him about that, but he was a very unique individual, and
I had one brief sighting of Hal Ashby, and it's burned in my memory forever. I'm a kid, and my dad had a movie produced at MGM, which was now Sony. It was still MGM. And we went to see a cut of it. And my dad took me. I was probably like 13 years old or something. And a homeless guy is on the lot. He's got long gray hair, torn pants, sandals. He's smoking like a Moore cigarette, like a long brown cigarette. Right. And as a kid, and so I know New York. I'm from New York. I'm like, how did the homeless guy get on the set? And I asked my dad, I said, who's the guy? There's a homeless guy here. He said, no, that's Hal Ashby.
Yeah.
He had just finished Bound for Glory.
Yeah.
At MGM.
Yeah.
And I went, Jesus, that's Hal Ashby. I knew who he was.
No.
That was his vibe. Was a complete kind of
he's
hippie.
Like a beatnik.
Yeah, beatnik. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like a beatnik. He used the first Steadicam in Bound for Glory, the first ever Steadicam shot, the opening shot. I think it's the opening shot of the movie.
Yeah, and there's beautiful, and I don't know how he did this.
He was always on the cutting edge like that visually. You know, he had like, just like Francis Coppola, you know, he had, even on A Million Ways to Die, he had a van full of like video editing, and he was, you know, he can run like simultaneous cameras and punch them like he would do the Stones concert and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
He was always experimenting with that, you know.
He also had in Bound for Glory, they have these long takes on the top of the train as they're going through the countryside. And I think it's all for real. I don't think there's any process involved.
No,
it doesn't look like it. But I'm going like, how the hell did they pull that off? They're up there. They have to, I'm sure they have to keep reloading without stopping the train, right? I mean, that train's just going. They're up there for hours, I would assume.
Yeah.
It's really epic. Bound for Glory, I just saw it actually.
I got to see it again.
TCM. It's beautiful.
But you saw the Steadicam in there.
Yeah.
Garrett Morris, I think the guy's name, right, who invented it. He actually operated it. Probably showed it to Hal. He said, well, I'm going to put it in my movie. You know, let's go.
That was the end of part 1 of my conversation with Andy Garcia. If you enjoyed it, please come back. There's more where that came from. I hope this library of conversations will keep expanding. All interview material and audio clips are covered by the Fair Use Copyright Act of 1976, in which allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research. You can follow me on Twitter at ReelRDEF. That's ReelRDEF. Please look at my blog, which is called Movies Till Dawn. You can find it at moviestildawn.blogspot.com. And that's all for Movies Till Dawn. As my mother used to say, if it doesn't have Fred Astaire or Ginger Rogers in it, I could care less.